Well, what's up, guys? This is Jay from COI. So, for this episode, I took some different numbers and statistics from different times. So, don't get confused by some of them. There is one that I had that was specifically from about 10 days ago. And you can see the US map, and you can easily see that Texas has like 11 cases, Washington has 30 cases, California 38. And then right after that one is today. And there's no numbers, so it's hard to tell. But I will tell you, as of today, right now, we are over 8,700 cases of the coronavirus. Now, I bring these like two different versions of numbers from just a few weeks ago to today because I had to go out today. And I had talked about kind of showing some leadership and helping the elderly in your community. Well, it's finally got to a point where there's a lot of elderly people in my community who are scared to go out. And so I was picking groceries up for them. And let me tell you that I look like a freak probably, but I bring Clorox wipes, hand sanitizer, everything I get for them, I wipe down. I'm wiping down my steering wheel, my hands constantly, my phone. I'm very, very cautious when I get out to hand them their groceries. I put my mask on, which yes, you should not buy those, but I happen to have one um, from a couple months ago. So I had this, and this is how I give them groceries. But I noticed that when I went to my Walmart, there was a lot of people just milling around, just hanging out. And I have two pieces of advice for people. If your job has said, hey, we're shutting down, we're slowing down, take extra time off, we're going to be on shutdown for a month or so, my two pieces of advice: stay at home and stay off of social media. I say this, and I'm namely talking to the people who are in their 40s, maybe 30s, more, and up, who I think they're panicking more than anyone. And a lot of people tend to use shopping as a therapy. So I ran into this kind of group of people shopping, and these two women, and they passed each other. And they were talking amongst the other women and men in this group, and two of them were like, hey, I just saw you here yesterday. And I happened to notice that they all had a bunch of air filters in their cards. And she was like, one of the women said to the other, oh, did you see that on Facebook where this is, supposed to help with the coronavirus? And you're like, yeah, oh yeah, that's why we're getting some. And I noticed a lot of these people had air filters in their cart. And look, we can't control it by spending money. And let me explain something. I don't know if it's true that it's going to help, but I'll tell you what's not going to help is going to Walmart. You would have a much less chance of getting the coronavirus by staying at home than going out and picking up an air filter for your heater. It it astounds me how this works. I mean, you remember when we used to call in sick, or you played hooky at school, and the one rule is you would never leave your house because if you got caught, you get in trouble. That's exactly how this should be. Don't leave your house unless you absolutely have to. And look, I know you could say, well, you left your house, and I did. And I admit it. Number one, don't do what I do. I'm a moron. But number two, I had a purpose. I had a cause. And by the way, go back to, about, God, at this point, only 5 days ago when I made a video about how we should do more. I almost recant that video and say, no, don't. Don't worry about it. Just stay at home. You're doing more by staying at home. But there is people in our community who do need help, and if we can do it at a super, super safe manner, then we should. And that's what I was doing. So if you're out there, if you're going to be exposed anyway, then you should only be out there to help people and for that purpose, and to not pass it on, because that's another responsibility that you have to have with you if you're going to be out there helping people, delivering goods and whatever. And even I have got to a point, and I say got to a point. It's been going on for about 3 days that I've been doing this, where I've been getting groceries or items or medicine. Today it was medicine. Um, I leave it on their front porch and I give them a phone call and let them know I put it there. I sit in my car to make sure it doesn't get taken or anything. Watch them pick it up and they go. And that's the new system where, but that's the thing. We have to devise a new system for life. And part of it is, if you can, stay at home. I know that for a lot of the country. I mean, you're looking at the map today, there's a lot of the country that doesn't have this. But if you look back, even on that video I did about 5 days ago talking about what we can do to help, how we can make this better, I announced the numbers then and I remember them at 4,400. In 5 days, we have more than doubled. And the thing to remember, um, we don't know. Sadly, we don't know. We keep saying these numbers: 8,700, 9,000. I'm sure we're going to be 10,000 tomorrow at some point. We have no idea because we don't have the tests. We're not testing them like how every other country has been testing people. We haven't been doing that. I had a lady come into my store on Monday, I think. And yes, we have a very strict policy of get your shit, get out. Our doors are almost locked. People have to call, make an order. They come in. It's a very quick transaction. But even that, we are thinking about shutting down very soon. But I had a lady, and she was in her 60s, probably. And she was talking, and she was like, well, there's only been 41 people that have died of this. And at that time, there had been 80. And I told her, and well, I just heard yesterday it was 40. I said, no, there's been 80, 81 at that time. Before I was even done with my shift, there was 85. Now, look, this isn't like the Spanish flu where there's a person dying every 9 minutes, but there easily could be. And mind you, that the numbers and the statistics that we all think, I've heard people, even as I've gone out, I've been at work, I've been talking to other people, uh, doing podcasts and radio and stuff like that. I've had a number of people say, yeah, but there's like a 0.2% chance I'll die of it. And maybe, but we don't really know. And let's say that sounds good on paper, but number one, remember a week ago when we said, yeah, this is going to get bad, but at least it's not going to affect children? Well, that's changed now. Now we found out it does affect children. It doesn't affect them at the rate that it affects adults, but it does affect them. Um, and infants and toddlers, they're more susceptible to it than we thought too. All of it's changing. And the best thing to do is just to use a lot of caution. And if you have the time, take it off. And right now, the government is working on its third economic coronavirus expansion emergency bill. And in that bill, I believe they are setting what they're calling helicopter money, but basically it's kind of like a UBI, where every American gets a check. And that number has been floated around. I said in my last video, I said it was like 1,000, and that was what I was to understand. But I've heard differing numbers back and forth. It's interesting because going into it, just like in the video I did yesterday, the Republicans were pretty far left on it, and they were pushing 1,000. Most Democrats were like, no, we don't even think we should do that. They were almost fighting that number, and for a couple reasons politically. Number one, because if Donald Trump gives everyone $1,000, well, who are they going to vote for in November? Um, and they don't want the Republican to look like the hero in this situation. But then you did have people on the left and people who have been on the left for a very long time advocating for even more money. So last I heard, just a couple hours ago, Steve Mnuchin from the Trump administration has said we need to inject even more money into this plan. So it's like they were 2 weeks ago, both parties couldn't go any further right. Now they're all flying left, and it's hard to say where they're going to end. Um, but if we get that, if everyone gets that check and you're able to stay home, stay home. Don't take any risks. I understand, and it's a horrible situation where a lot of people are right now, where they would stay home if they could, but it's either stay at home and starve to death or lose your house, or it's go out and potentially get the coronavirus, but still have food and guaranteed you can pay your house payment. It's a very shitty situation to be in, but if this comes through, I suspect a lot of people, a lot of small businesses, and a lot of other businesses are going to shut down. Just stay at home. Don't get out. It's not worth it. Um, if you need some therapy, there's other things you can do. I advise getting into MMO games. You're gonna have the time. um, cooking, baking, painting, working around the house. There's a lot of stuff you can do. You're probably, if you're at home right now, which you should be, you're probably looking around your house right now and looking at all sorts of stuff that you could be fixing or working on, and get to that. But I do want to touch on one note, and I want to say typically I do go, I talk more about politics than I do current situations and current events. But I will say politically, I do want to tie some of this in. And I just want to say, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to continue to call myself a Democrat. And I say that all the time, but let it be known that during this coronavirus pandemic threat to Americans, the Democrats held their feet back from voting for this bill to help you because they didn't want you to vote for Donald Trump. At the cost of American lives, they are dragging their feet so they could win a stupid election. They don't deserve to win the election if they have to kill people to get it. And that, I'm going to tie that into the primaries that went on yesterday in Florida, Illinois, Arizona. Why? Tons of people lined up, all potentially infectious. We don't know. We don't have no numbers. But why take the risk? Why? Because if people took a second, because if we give it another couple weeks, Joe Biden is probably going to say something racist. He's probably going to have a giant gaffe and go off, and he's going to make some racial joke about the Asians and the coronavirus. We don't know. But the thing is, they know they have to get Joe Biden in now before the people have a chance to think about it. So they're going to push it, and they're going to kill people that way. Then there's a plan to give you money to help you pay your bills, and they're going to drag their feet on it because they don't want you to elect Trump. I it really makes you think. And politically, there's a couple other things I want you to think about too, as I've been thinking about. Because I know some of the people on the right wing and your libertarians are like, yeah, you got your libertarians are probably against this whole helicopter money, but the right wing are like, yeah, Trump is the hero, blah blah blah. No, right now Donald Trump has been placing sanctions on Venezuela and Iran, even stricter sanctions, mind you, as they have asked, can you please remove the sanctions because we cannot get medical supplies, because we can't get tests. The tests in Venezuela cost 4 times what they cost here in America because of our sanctions. But Donald Trump is busy playing politics instead of being a goddamn human being. Like, I don't care. And I understand there's a lot of people who don't like the others. In fact, I've heard people say, well, Iran had a lot of deaths, but, it's those people. Yeah, those people died because we sanctioned them, because they can't get medical supplies. Because you think we have a problem with ventilators and beds? They had a problem with that way before this. because of our sanctions. We had put them on an island. And what did they do? What did they do to deserve those sanctions, by the way? They signed a deal to not um, to not carry nuclear weapons, essentially. I am simpling it down. I get that, but yeah, that's what they did. They went into a deal with us where they basically agreed, uh, you know, to to stop fostering nuclear capabilities. And Donald Trump said, "No, fuck you. I don't care." And we implemented sanctions. Venezuela, what did they do? I'll tell you what they did. They had exit poll discrepancies. Oh no. Oh my God, what are we going to do? The average exit poll discrepancy was 11%. Nowhere near the average election poll discrepancy in our Democratic primaries, but that was enough for us to sanction those people. Yeah, because we don't like them, basically. Because we are so busy playing goddamn politics that we don't have time to take care of our own country. In fact, this problem in America probably wouldn't have been as a big problem as it is if our politicians kept their head out of other countries' asses and paid more attention to their own fucking country. But that's not how we do. I mean, how many people go on and blame and talk about the immigrants? Well, I don't have a problem with them being here, but why do they got to be here? And they have to come in here legally. I don't know why there's so many of them. Well, I'll tell you why. Because we fucked with their country and now they're refugees. And by the way, since they're refugees, they can legally come here. It's in our constitution. My advice, my guidance for this, stop fucking with other countries. Is America such a great place right now? Hell, was America such a great place 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 50 years ago? When did America get to the place where we said everything is goddamn perfect? Let's go spend resources in other countries. To give you an idea of the number, 1.5% of the military's budget is the full budget we have for the CDC. What's a bigger threat to you right now? Iran? Iraq? Or the fucking virus? The goddamn pandemic? It boggles my mind how we live. And now we want to run away and act like it's not real. It's growing super fast. We have no time to hide our eyes. There is no more time to say it's a hoax. No more time to listen to your meth head friend Gary on Facebook who says it's just a way for them to start martial law. It's something else going on. Yeah, why don't you go talk to Iran, Gary? See if, they're just playing along too, aren't they? So is China. It's all just a game. They're all playing around. Yeah, go talk to the dead bodies. Go talk to the doctors who had to tell people, look, I can't help you. We don't have the equipment. Because there's something else going on. There's a bigger conspiracy, Gary. Yeah, you know so much more. Just because you're up all day researching shit because you're high on meth doesn't mean you actually know more. I don't know, Gary. my point is more than ever, there's a couple things that I have heard. One of them is stock buyback, and I find it funny that stock buyback is one of the main things that are talked about right now because that's the fear of the bailout. And look, I don't think we should do a bailout of a lot of companies. I really don't. And let me tell you, I've been preaching about stock buyback since the tax cuts because most of the companies that got those giant sweet ass tax cuts from Trump, they did stock buybacks. And that's why they're saying, well, I don't know if we should do this now. That's what a lot of Democrats are saying. Well, look, yes, there's part of this bill that's going to help the American people, giving them a check for $1,000. But what if Boeing does stock buyback again? Well, why didn't you have a problem when they did it 2 years ago, a year ago? Why didn't you have a problem with it all this time? Why didn't you have a problem when they all did it under Obama? Because Occupy Wall Street. I've been preaching about that for forever, and no one's given a shit or even cared enough to look up what stock buyback meant. And the other one I'm hearing a lot is, well, I saw it on Facebook. Don't get your news from Facebook. And look, most of my listeners, you guys are probably screaming the same stuff. You all are incredibly smart people, but it's just the idea that we go into our day to day lives now. And most of it, unfortunately, is going to be done in social media when we have conversations with people. Remind them of these things. Remind them that martial law couldn't happen because let's just take that as an act of war. And the closest thing we have to remember is the Iraq War. We are about 12 times larger than Iraq. Our military wouldn't be able to do that. It would be impossible. Coast to coast martial law. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. There's all sorts of things like that. When people talk about air filters, toilet paper, whatever, remind them the best way to get it is by going out. Even if they think it's going to help. Well, yeah, but if I get the coronavirus, this air filter will help. Ask them to find that information on the CDC's website. Most people who are farting around on social media, they have no expertise in any of this. And there's a lot of people who are looking to just basically sell you colloidal silver for likes and shares and a little bit of, you know, fame on the internet. Anyway, that's what I got for today, guys. Hopefully you guys are all staying safe. Everything is good. Um, Sorry it's a little bit jumbled. There's so much to put into this, and I want to try to make it under 30 minutes, but um, you know how that is. There is a lot. I will update tomorrow because I believe the whole spending bill for the coronavirus, I think they're supposed to pass it tomorrow. I don't know. There's a few things I've heard. Um, it's so busy right now. I've talked to a few of my journalist friends. One of them says that they believe that the spending bill is going to happen within the next 24 hours. And subsequently, he though also said he thinks there's going to be much more rigid um, standards or protocols for our daily lives. He didn't exactly go into it, and I think it's because he doesn't know. And half of the time, it's what the governors say, it's what the president says, and there's this dance between the two. And it's at the moment, it's very combative and it's not helping fix anything. And there's a lot of people saying, why does our government work this way? Well, it works this way for freedom, but it's not very good when we're all trying to get on the same page. So it's hard to say exactly when some of this is going to come down, but I do want to remind you too, just like what my friend had said. When I asked him, I replied, I said, rigid standard of operation for life. What does that mean? I mean, are we going to be like all quarantined, mandatory in our house? The one thing he said is like, look, remember, this was all advice first, but people haven't been listening. And it kind of hit home. It definitely hit home when he said that because it's true. I'm going out, there's just people everywhere. And they're not listening, they're not seeing the numbers. This thing is, of course, it's real and it's moving fast. And we don't know. You think you're 20 some year old and you're healthy and you're fine, you're not gonna die of it. Right now, the numbers don't say that, but we really don't know. I was in really good mood about the fact that I heard that infants um, aren't really affected by it. And I have a baby coming in June, so I was like, good, at least it's not going to affect her. Well, now it's not. Now it looks like it will. So we really don't know. Anyway, guys, again, thank you so much. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay at home. I will talk to you tomorrow.